Hi, friends. On today's episode, I welcome my friend, Kathryn, aka the Pure Doula, to chat about pregnancy and mindset shifting. She shares the differences between her pregnancy with her daughter versus her current pregnancy, what she did to make these changes, and her experience with HG. I absolutely love chatting with her, and I know you all appreciate her insight and perspective on preparing for pregnancy. Mindset is everything. Enjoy. Hey girl, how are you? Thank
Hello.
you so much for being here. Um, so for those of you who are not familiar, this is my friend Kathryn. She is the Pure Doula. Kathryn, can you give the listeners a little intro of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me, Tiffany. This is exciting. It's been a while since I've been a guest on someone else's podcast, so
Yeah.
I might stutter a little bit or be a little nervous. And I also had an iced coffee that my husband got me that was really yummy. But again, coffee just kind of makes me like a mile a minute.
Sam.
So everyone bear with me. But anyway, my name's Kathryn. My handles on all social is the Pure Doula, and I am a mostly virtual doula and a one-on-one birth coach. I specialize in the mindset around birth, which has something I've always kind of been into. I've been in the coaching world since like 2017, like in and out of it in like different niches and stuff before I found like my true calling, which is this birth.
Yeah.
And that's a long story that we can save for another time. But anyway, I've always been like into mindset in one way or another, right? And since getting saved back in 2020 and like reconnecting with God and the Most High, I had a lot of like not I don't want to say struggles, but I guess like obstacles to kind of figure out with following the word and like seeing how mindsets can play into that and to our everyday life. So once I was doing that, and then I got pregnant and I was learning all this stuff about birth, and that drove me to become a doula. And that journey has been a lot. I've learned and unlearned so much since then and changed my views on how to support birth and what kind of births I personally would support. Um, which kind of came full circle and led me back to this whole mindset coaching, which is kind of cool. I know, like in the beginning with the mindset coaching that I was doing, it was a bit more of the new age style, which obviously I'm not into now. But I also believe that like everything's inverted in this world, and when you look at scripture and praying and all this stuff, a lot of like mindset practices are there, right? So
Absolutely.
So it kind of like came full circle, but like in truth,
Mm.
almost, if that makes sense. And I hope I sound okay because I'm also very pregnant and I run out of breath.
Girl, I feel you, and I'm sure a lot of the women listening could relate.
Yeah.
Um, no, but I love that so much because I really I agree, I think, and especially, being in birth work as well, mindset is everything when it comes to birth prep. I mean, I feel like birth prep is mindset prep, or mindset work
Yeah.
rather. It's like, you know, some people focus too much on the physical aspects of preparing for birth, and yes, those things are important too, but without that mindset work, I feel like there's truly like a missing piece, like I really feel like that is where you're going to struggle if you didn't focus on doing that kind of work in your pregnancy, which is what leads us into why you're here, because we are going to be discussing pregnancy and how I wanted Catherine to share the differences between her first pregnancy with her daughter Mercy versus her pregnancy now, because she has obviously evolved so much in her birth work and just as a woman in general since her first pregnancy. And I know that from my own experiences, pregnancy differs depending on where you are in life. And, it's
Yes.
basically a reflection of where you are at that point. And I feel like the same goes for birth. I feel like we birth the way we birth is a reflection of where we are in life and in our own individual like evolution. Um so Catherine, if you want to kind of go into your first pregnancy with Mercy and touch a bit on, I know there were some challenges that you experienced in the conception phase, and then if you want to just go into pregnancy, and then if you want to touch a little on the birth as well, I mean, I'm definitely down to hear it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's so funny how different each pregnancy can be, right? Like you mentioned, and both my pregnancies have been so very different on like a physical level and a mental level. And um the first time around, so I've always been like super skinny, like naturally, right? And like naturally had a six pack, whatever. So to me, I'm like, oh yeah, this is great. Like I can eat whatever I want. I'm healthy. Like this is fine. And it's like it didn't it didn't equate to internal health, right? So like on the outside I might have looked okay, but on the inside I really wasn't. And to even go back further, there was a point in my life where I was a very young teen. I was getting ruptured ovarian cysts. I was put on birth control at a very, very, very young age because they said that's what prevents them. And a couple years later, like during a checkup to make sure, cysts were gone and everything, they're like, okay, well, you're probably never going to be able to have kids.
Wow.
And it was like, what?
Wow.
And like it was just said like it was said so like, oh, the sun's out today. You know what I mean? Like in a very like
Hmm.
no bedside manner. There was no explanation. The doctor came and said it and left. And I was just like, I was a young teen. I was like, what the heck just happened? So like I felt like up until mostly that point in my life, like as a young girl, as a child, like I always wanted a family. I wanted a husband. Like I used to dress up like a bride,
Hmm.
and like I want a baby. I was always a babysitter. And then that kind of happened. And I feel like that's when everything shifted and I became so afraid of pregnancy and birth as a guise to like my grief,
Hmm.
but not realizing it. So I never wanted to have children. I was disgusted by the thought. I was also a model since a child. So being in the entertainment industry, like image was everything. And, why would I ruin my body? Why would I ruin my life? Like, no, this and that. And gosh, I really run out of breath.
It's okay.
They don't warn
Take
you
your
this with
breaths,
pregnancy.
right? I
I don't
know.
remember it like this bad the first time around. But oh my gosh. Okay. So, um yeah, so I was like so scared, so scared, so scared. Never wanted it, never wanted it. Um thought I was still healthy like I said because I'm like naturally thin and all this and whatever. And then in 2020 I met my now husband, and he's like always been a health nut. He has been a personal trainer for like, I don't know, like 12 or 13 years or something, and like into food and like natural remedies and all that good stuff, right? And he's also very like understanding and never like pushy with me. Like he would let me go through my things, like my phases or whatever, like I was always that person like, okay, well today I'm going to be vegan, or today I'm going to eat this, or I want this or whatever.
Hmm.
And um once we like got serious, we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, like we should get married and have babies and stuff like that. And I was still kind of concerned because one, from what I was told, and two, like I still had so much fear around it. So those things, and also just not being healthy internally, prevented us from really being able to get pregnant. So there was a time when I got pregnant in the summer of 2020, and we were like so pumped. And then I unfortunately had a miscarriage, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Like, I had already told like my best friends, and some received it well, some didn't, which is like so weird, but whatever. And we were like, okay, what is going on? So John was just like, look, like, here's the thing. We got to get you like detoxed and eating right. Like, I love that you're like eating whatever you want and like trying all these different things. He's like, but you're not really nourishing yourself at all. And you need to like take care of your insides and like your reproductive stuff and all that good stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, let's try it. So he had me detox, and then just like change up my whole diet to like, I guess you would call it more carnivore style.
Mm-hmm.
Like lots of proteins, lots of fats. Uh like literally we ate steak like every day, and like I love steak. I could eat steak every day.
Same.
And like salmon roe and beef liver, like all this stuff. And then it was like I got pregnant right away. Like I wouldn't say right away, but like, enough time had passed where my body adjusted and like it worked. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then like it was still there. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is getting real. Like, okay, this is the real deal. And then I got extremely sick. I was like, what the heck? And what was crazy, it was like before I got sick, that was the first time in my life I had ever put on weight. So I had gained muscle weight, like healthy weight, from exercising, excuse me, with him. And that was like the first time ever in my life. I was like, this is crazy. Like, wow, this is amazing. Like I have a little booty. That's cool. I'm not like a stick figure anymore. But so I gained, healthy weight. And then I guess like once the pregnancy like really kicked in, is when I got really, really sick. And I was so sick. I was stuck to the bed. If I moved, I would throw up. If I got up, I would throw up. I don't even think I took a shower like this whole time. Like John like carried me to the shower and bathed me once because I was like, I just reek. But like I was so sick. I lost so much weight. Like I went right back to being a stick figure, super thin. I was like crying because I'm like, how am I supposed to be pregnant when this is happening?
Yeah.
And I wasn't seeing anyone. Like, so at this point, I had already started my research because like my toxic trait is I have to know everything. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, well, I'm learning all the body stuff, like the biology, the physiology, how it all works, right? And this is one way that my pregnancy then differs from now, especially with the sickness, right? So learning all the body stuff. I'm like, I'm not going to a doctor. Never liked doctors. Stopped seeing doctors like after my teens. And so it was pretty much like a wild pregnancy at that point. And self-diagnosed myself with HG because I'm like, this is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink, like it was awful the whole first trimester. I don't know how we're able to sustain our life, and then another life during that because it's so difficult, but
Seriously.
I did it. And John was very helpful. He kept me hydrated with anything I could keep down, which is really just like hot water, fresh grated ginger, salt, once in a while a Slurpee. I don't know how I could keep a Slurpee down, but I was just like, give me a Slurpee, and it worked.
Yeah, I did
But
like the Italian ices. That was like all I could eat.
yeah.
It was like terrible.
But for some reason they worked, and it's like perfect, and it's like um refreshing too, like that cold icy, like
Yeah,
it
and
just
when you're
felt
like
so good.
dehydrated,
Yeah. My
honestly,
gosh.
anything is like better than nothing at that point. It's yeah, no,
Mhm.
it's
It's
terrible.
bad. So like I can see how women who go through that, who don't inform themselves on things, which I'm not judging anyone, like some people are just different than others, how it can be scary, and how it leads to going to the doctor all the time and it becoming like a medically treated pregnancy, because
Yeah.
had I not have I not been the person I've been, always been, and ended up at the doctor, like who knows, like I'd be hospitalized on IVs, going in every week, getting checked out, making sure everything's okay, which could then cause more problems, right? So anyway, um, once that went away, once that second trimester hit, like I was so good. I went back to like exercising and like just feeling normal and eating, being able to eat, which was like a big thing. But
Yeah.
I would say besides the sickness, like this time around, I didn't get sick at all. I had like slight nausea, but once I would get up and be active and outside, it went away and I felt great. And I've been feeling great, thank God, because I was like, I don't know how anyone can do that and then like have to take care of another baby while sick like that.
Oh
That's
my
got to be so
goodness. I
difficult.
know.
Like, God bless you all because that's just awful. But I would say one big difference is I was so focused on like the body functions of pregnancy and birth the first time around with like learning how everything works and focusing so much on that and not realizing that it is a mind thing. Like it's all about your like mind, body, soul, like one thing, right?
Yeah.
Where this time around, um, I've like, I obviously know now how the body works, but it's not even like a thought in my head because I'm like, I just need to make sure my mind is right.
Because that's still going to
And
do what it needs to do. You don't need to think about
exactly,
that part.
exactly. So when your mind is right, then your body just follows suit. Your body's going to do
Exactly.
what it's supposed to do. So that I didn't know the first time around. And the first time around, I was like every week, me and John, like we would lay down, we would watch these little videos like, oh, what size fruit is my baby this week? And like what's it supposed to do? And
Mm.
what's my body supposed to do? And like how am I supposed to feel? And how am I supposed to look and all this stuff? And I remember there were times like where I was like, okay, I don't look like this. I don't feel like this. I don't think my baby's going to feel like this, And it was like
Absolutely.
creating like these thoughts and this anxiety where this time around I'm like, I really don't care if my baby's like the size of a mango or whatever. Like, who cares?
But I love that you brought
What
that
good is
up.
this information?
Yes. I
Yes.
love that you brought that up. I actually just created um like a piece of content to post this week about pregnancy apps because
Oh, they're
they're
awful.
so toxic. It's
Yeah, like
so
so toxic.
toxic. Literally telling you like this week you're gonna puke your brains out.
Yeah.
Like and it's like, really? Okay. And then that goes into your subconscious. And then
Yep.
oh, lo and behold, you end up puking your brains out. And it's like, yeah, it's awful. It matches this the system that we have in place here so perfectly.
Exactly. Exactly. It still takes your authority away over your pregnancy and your birth because you're having someone else tell you what's going on. And it's not like one size fits all. Like it's not at all. I had lost so much weight that first trimester, so I didn't show for a very, very long time. So like when this woman is telling me like on YouTube, okay, so this week like your belly looks like this, you're probably feeling this, da, da, da," I'm like, no. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, is there something wrong with me? And because I tend to get obsessive over things and wanting to know things, I kept doing all these pregnancy apps and like YouTube videos
Yeah.
to learn and learn and learn, not realizing that it's just about I'm focusing on the body of a system of that looks at it as one size fits all and not the spiritual part, the mindset part.
Yeah.
So this time around, I'm like, I haven't looked at a thing. I don't care. And John was like, my husband, he's like, okay, well, maybe we should watch those videos again and like see. Cause like bless him, he doesn't understand, like I
Mhm.
didn't really go into detail right when I got pregnant on how I'm doing things differently. But once that came up, I was like, babe, listen, like, no,
Yeah,
because XYZ. And he's like, okay, okay, that makes sense. I get it, because they
absolutely.
just create more fear, they create more anxiety. So that's one thing I'm like not doing at all is like the apps telling me what's going on.
So I have a question
Um,
for you. Going
yeah.
into, because I totally can relate to the HG experience, and I mean, I would say it's pretty traumatizing. At least, it was for me. My experience, it was like super traumatizing because I wasn't expecting it. And I didn't know that that was even something that women could experience. And
Mm-hmm.
and then feeling like I had such little control over my physical body just really messed me up because I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is like such an awful thing. Like, why does this happen to women?" And so I know that I had this fear after, like, will this happen again? And if you are someone who Googles this type of stuff, which I obviously did at that point because I wanted to learn more about it, they almost always tell you that once you have HG, you will always have HG. Like, this is like
Mm-hmm.
something that just you're basically doomed to that experience.
Right.
So
Which doesn't help.
I know, it's awful. So going into, like, your second pregnancy, like, when you guys decided to have another and all of that, where were you mentally going into this pregnancy? Like, was that a fear that you had? Like, "Oh, I wonder if I'm gonna experience that again?"
I would say there were times that came up, but not at that period of time. So like it would come up, it probably came up while I was pregnant with Mercy still. And then like maybe the first year after having her when we would talk about having more children, like I was like, well, I can't be sick. I don't have the time for that. Like I'm a stay-at-home mom. I have to take care of Mercy. Like I don't think that's gonna be possible. But, in that short period of time, I've grown so much that when it came to getting pregnant this time around, which I knew right away, I was like, okay, great, I'm pregnant.
Mhm.
Good job, babe. um, it wasn't much of a concern. So, like, there were times where, like, some nausea would kick in, like the first time especially, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I don't want to get sick. I don't want to be sick. I cannot be sick. And I would just like pray and like tell myself and just like shout it out like I am not available for this. Like I can't do it. This was in the summer. I had gotten pregnant last summer, and um in the summer I live at the beach, right? So in the summer I work a couple nights a week on the boardwalk at this nice restaurant. It's right on the ocean, and it's like 4 hours a night. It's like the best little gig. I love it. And I'm like, I have to go to work.
Yeah.
I have to take care of Mercy. I cannot be sick. So I don't know if it's because this pregnancy is completely different, if my mindset is completely different, or if it's God. You know what I mean? Like, so I never got sick. Thank God.
Yeah.
But this time around, I just didn't let that scare me. It
Mhm.
was just like, okay, I know it's possible, but like I don't want it, and I don't want to have it at all. And I'm not going to like welcome it by any means. And I
Yeah.
feel like there are times where your thoughts and your beliefs and just holding on to fears can manifest in illnesses. And I'm not discrediting the fact that that illness can happen for a biological reason, but I think that sometimes if we just look at things a different way,
Mm.
or treat it a different way mentally and spiritually, that we can support it not being such a threat, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Um
100%. Yeah. 'Cause it's like, think
so
of it like an invasive thought, right? Like you
yes.
can, if you really let that thing run wild, it can totally, wreck a situation or, whatever. But if you're like, "Oh, okay, hi, I see you, but like, no, you gotta go," then that's it. It's done. You know?
Yes. 1000%. And anytime I do start to feel like a little sick, that's just kind of how like I approach it. Obviously, I also do treat it with like natural medicine or whatever you want to call it. I don't know, what do you call it? Like natural remedies.
Mhm.
But I've always been more like everything's in the mind, in the head, So this time around, I remember just like laying in bed with Mercy, like waking up and being like, all right, I'm pregnant. I don't have time for this. Like, I have to take care of this toddler. And again, maybe it's because I'm at a different point in life and motherhood changes you and you don't have a choice but to just get up and be a mom. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
I feel like it could be a lot of different factors with that. Um,
for sure. Yeah, there's so many ways that you can, I guess, interpret what's taking place.
mhm,
One that I heard that really, really resonates so much with me and with my experience is the German new medicine perspective of HG um and where that kind of starts, and it's due to an identity crisis, which I think is really
mm,
interesting in terms of pregnancy, because when you think about pregnancy, of course there's going to be people who are super excited to welcome a baby into this world, and then for some that might completely rock their world, even if it's welcomed on like on like a surface level, like, oh yeah, we're so excited, we want a baby. But especially I think if it's your first, it's like, "Oh, what is this gonna do to me? Like, how is this gonna change me fundamentally, like, as a person, as a woman?" Like, you go from maidenhood to motherhood, like, that your identity is completely shifting. But,
yeah.
like, for me, it wasn't so much that shift because I was already a mother. I became a mom at 17, but it was that I had gotten saved while I
Mm,
was when right when I found out I was pregnant, and going from, being this successful, entrepreneur who like made money doing tarot card readings online for people to, oh, I have to shut my entire business down because this no longer resonates with who I am as a person. And everything I've been doing for the last 10 years is like not it. Who am I now?
right.
Like, who
No,
am
that makes
I?
so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And I'm not familiar with German medicine, but like I definitely want to learn more because you just kind of blew my mind with that and it makes so much sense. And I feel like that definitely applies to my situation with Mercy and being so sick because very similar to your story with like shifting your entire identity after like being saved, but then adding pregnancy into the mix. Like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
a lot to
Yeah, that
change.
definitely like makes so much sense. So I have to look into
Yeah,
that.
no,
No, I need to know more.
it was something that I think helped me resolve that fear of HG again in like, future pregnancies, because I'm like, you know, going on Google, you're basically doomed once you have it. They tell you, well, you're going to just continue having this. And I'm like, well, I can't have that.
Right. Like, no.
And my HG was like literally up until the third trimester. It was super intense. So I was
Mm,
like having to go get IV like fluids because I was so
mm.
dehydrated. And I was like, there's no way I'm doing this again. But when
I
I heard that,
know.
I was like, wow, that makes so much sense. I was really struggling during that pregnancy with like who I was and like having to shut my business down that I had, worked so hard on for years and like just completely reinventing myself or well, needing to reinvent myself and kind of like reluctantly doing it because I was like, oh, wow, like all of that is for nothing, like I have, like I was
There is like a grief with it almost.
totally,
Yeah.
totally, I was
Yeah.
grieving for sure. And some people grieve maidenhood, and
Mhm.
yeah, so it makes a lot of sense. And I think there's so many different ways that we can look at the symptoms that women experience in pregnancy that are like not favorable, and not ideal ones. And they look different for everyone, I know some women get like just weird pregnancy symptoms, chronic
Yeah.
nosebleeds out of nowhere or like you know um certain women have like their blood pressure goes up really high when they're pregnant, and I'm sure there's some spiritual mental reason why these things happen to our physical bodies, in this time in our lives. Like we're going through so many shifts mentally, and if
Mhm.
you're not integrating and reflecting and all of that, it can totally manifest in ways that, we couldn't even imagine.
Which is so true. That's so, so true. I've been seeing even like on TikTok, I don't get it. I don't know, but there's so many women, pregnant women on there that make these videos how they just want to like drink pine sol or like they just love pine the sun is
What?
pine sol. So
Oh, that's
like,
so weird.
I know. So like a lot of them are like, yeah, I'll eat ice and sniff pine sol and it's like I guess they're eating the pine. I don't know, but
So
it was
that
like
sounds
one.
like deficiencies.
Right, yes, yes, that's what I thought. I was like, "Okay, this one's a little weird, but it sounds like
I
you need
wonder what.
something that's not pine sol." Yeah.
I wonder what that would be linked to, but I know that the ice one is linked to like an iron deficiency. But, like,
Mm.
those weird cravings that people, like, some people
Yeah.
crave weird things like you said, Pine Sol or, like,
Yeah, like stuff
Tide
that you're
Pod.
definitely not supposed to consume.
Yeah, seems very weird, yeah, but our bodies are so intelligent, and this is our body's way of, like, sending us messages like, "Hey, we need help here," like,
Yeah.
"Can you give us more of this?" Like pregnancy cravings, right?
Mhm. That's so true. So, so
Craving
true.
chocolate, can mean that you're deficient in magnesium. Craving, eggs. I know I, when I was pregnant with my daughter, right before I was pregnant with my daughter, I was vegetarian. Same thing with my
Mm.
son, too. I was a vegetarian before I got pregnant with my son. And in both of those pregnancies, I craved meat like crazy. Like, I mean, burgers, steaks, like that's all I
Wow.
wanted. And it was clearly because that's what my body was deprived of and
Yeah, yeah.
and needed for the pregnancy to be, healthy and all of that. So, yeah, I think it's really
So
important to look at
interesting.
those signs that our bodies, give us. So you're like pretty much at the end of pregnancy now. And so
Yeah.
how has this pregnancy been?
It's been a breeze, honestly. I mean, I'm very grateful, and like I said, I think I don't think. I fully believe it's because I just went about it differently than the first. And I'm not saying what I did in the first was wrong. I think every woman's on a different journey, but I do think that should be a part of the journey is obviously learning everything about your body and how it how it births, how it does pregnancy, how it does birth. Learn all
Yeah.
those things. Um, but this time being so just like mindful and intentional with this pregnancy. It's just been so easy. I've like there were so many times like I just forgot I was pregnant. And I mean that in like the best way possible because I wasn't like overthinking and obsessing and over analyzing and like just micromanaging like what's happening. Like
Yeah.
I'm just going with the flow. And I only think going with the flow is beneficial once you learn all the things. If you don't know a thing about it, about birth, about pregnancy, about mind, body, soul, all of that, and you're just going with the flow of what someone else is telling you, you're setting yourself up for disaster, for
For sure.
avoidable trauma, for a birth you don't desire, it'll be a rude awakening. But because I did all that work for the past however many years of learning just like pregnancy and birth and then continuing it and not just stopping, like I feel like so many women and a lot of birth workers I see online, they just like end their education at their certification or whatever, and
Yeah.
it's like I'm all about being biased with birth because I think that's a good thing with who you support and who you don't support. Um, I don't care if that triggers anyone, but and that's on a
For
more
sure.
spiritual, energetic level, right? But I don't think that means you should stop your education or learning or growth, right? Like if you're not growing, it's almost like anything that doesn't grow is dead,
Yeah.
right? Things are
Literally.
constantly changing. I look back at like 2 years ago of what I believed with pregnancy and birth, and I'm like, oh no, no,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
Literally
um,
same.
yeah, so it's like you just have to, and that's with anything in life. Like you just have to keep growing. You have to be open to different perspectives. You have to be open to different conversations. And there were a lot of hard conversations, and they were hard at the time because I was so focused on what I thought to be true or what I believed at the time that deep down wasn't aligning with me. And I think that's why I was getting like triggered from time to time with some hard conversations about things like inductions. At one point I'm like, yeah, you can like naturally induce yourself with this and that, and it's like, no, you can't. That's like an oxymoron. Like,
Yeah.
what are you saying? And I had a good friend like having this conversation with me, and she's like, I love this because you're learning and you're gonna learn. And I'm like, okay girl, whatever. And then like fast forward, and it's like I always tell her, I'm like, you were right. Like my view completely shifted because I continued to be open to hearing things like this.
Yeah.
So I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent,
No, it's all relevant.
but hopefully that answers your question. But of course now, like I'm due next month, and that's another thing that I'm doing differently this pregnancy is I don't know when my due date is. I don't care when my due date is. I don't tell anyone. Like people are like, "Oh, when are you due?" I'm like, "I don't know, sometime in April." It could be like the end of April, the beginning of April. 420 would be cool. Who knows? I don't
That
know.
would
We'll
be
see.
cool.
um,
I love that.
I know, right? Where like the last time with Mercy, it was like, okay, well, I'm due. I think with her, my due date was March 19th, and she came exactly a week late, allegedly. So I'm like, you know,
So when's her birthday?
dealing with people. March 26th.
Aw, I have
Yeah,
so
so
much.
she'll be two
I
the
That's
26th.
so fun. I have so many family members that are that week, like literally birthdays back to
Really?
back that whole week. Yes, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, my cousin. It's like
Oh my
ridiculous.
gosh. That's so funny.
Yeah.
So they all were conceived in the summer.
Yep.
It's a good time to get it on, I guess.
Right. Well, you definitely followed that pattern because this baby isn't too far off from that
Yeah.
time
Which
frame.
is, I was thinking about that too, like the other day, and was like, I like this whole being pregnant throughout winter because I get really hot, like I'm just hot.
Yeah.
And it's like much as like I love how beautiful and cute like pregnant women are in bikinis, like on the beach. That's cute and all, but like I don't want to suffer at the beach in
No,
the
it's
heat
definitely
pregnant.
a challenge. I've had both of my babes are apart. Like my son is the 21st and then my daughter came November 1st.
Aw.
And I was pregnant throughout the entire summer, and it's not easy. It really isn't. It's it's nice because, I mean, I love the summer, so I'm like, well, if I feel better because it's summer, then, like, hopefully that, is like a reflection onto the baby and, like, I have, like, a nice,
Yeah.
enjoyable experience, but being, like, big and pregnant in the heat is just it's challenging for sure. Um,
Yeah, because this is the hard time. Like the first and the third trimester, I feel like are a bit challenging, and like this part of pregnancy where I'm at now, it's like everything's great. I'm just hot. My hips hurt. I can't breathe. No, I can breathe, but I run out of breath easily. I just want to lay down. My toddler's super active, and it's a little challenging right now, but the pregnancy itself has been so easy. So like that's one thing I do like to tell women is like your due date doesn't matter. Like just get it out of your head because you're just going to stress about it. The first time around, I stressed about it. I had
Absolutely.
people like and I knew that's the other thing like because I was just studying like the biology, the physiology, that part. I knew it doesn't really matter the due date, but because I had so many people around me who had known about
Mhm.
the due date, like it just created this anxiety of like, when am I gonna have the
Absolutely.
baby? When am I gonna have the baby? People like, oh, you look like you're gonna have her early. Oh, well, or we didn't know it was a girl, but you're gonna go earlier. You're gonna go here. Did you have the baby yet? Or blah 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 blah. And it's like, shut up.
No one needs that extra stress that's pregnant.
No.
And, like, I read something somewhere, I don't even know where or who, like, I have no idea the context of it, but it just stood out to me. Something like the last 2 weeks of pregnancy feels longer than, like, the entire pregnancy or something like to that point.
I 1000% believe it.
And I mean, I believe me, experienced that with my daughter because she
Yeah.
came at 42 plus 3, but I know for a fact that it was the pressure that I was getting from everyone around me about
Mhm.
her due date, about her being quote unquote late, and worrying that my midwife is gonna drop me if this baby doesn't come. And
Mm.
just that constant everyday waking up being like, "Is today gonna be the day? Is today gonna be the day?" And it not being the day, and so then you get disappointed, and you just continue that
Yeah.
cycle every single day until the baby comes, or you can literally just be like, "Screw all that," and just chill
Yes.
until your baby shows up.
And that's what I'm doing now, and that's what I, like, suggest every woman do, like, definitely learn all the things, but then, like, let it all go and realize, like, your feelings, your emotions, your energy, your mind, anything you have to work through, like trauma, like stuff that you teach, all that stuff, like, that's the birth prep you should do. That's gonna let you be the most relaxed. That's gonna let you, like, have the least interventions of any kind and just enjoy it and be just
Absolutely.
so chill about it.
Absolutely.
And not everyone deserves to even know about your pregnancy. You might think they're a close friend or a family member, but I learned through sharing when I first got pregnant, when John and I first got pregnant, and it resulting in a miscarriage, that people will put this bad energy on you.
Mm,
I learned that with when I was pregnant with Mercy. People will put this bad energy on you. I had when we got pregnant the first time before the miscarriage, there was someone I thought was one of my closest friends, and she was just like, I wouldn't have a baby right now. Like, why are you doing that? You know?
Oh my
And it's like, what?
goodness.
Like, who says that?
That is so crazy.
Yeah, and it's because it was like the summer of 2020. Like, first of all, f the government. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, and
Like, I'm
clearly
gonna
none of
live.
that stuck, so, like,
Yeah,
whatever.
right, exactly. And then when I was pregnant with Mercy, I had someone who I again thought was a friend, like, because of my personal beliefs that I'm sorry, I don't believe I'm very pro-life, and this person wasn't.
Mm,
And I don't even know how the conversation came up, but she had said something and she didn't know I was pregnant because we didn't tell anyone. But she was like, well, I just hope you never have to go through something where you have to end your pregnancy or something like that. And it's just like the people people who aren't fully on your level, which it's not going to be easy to find your people, and that's okay.
mhm.
But no one, they don't deserve to know anything because that's the kind of energy they're bringing to it, and you don't need that kind of energy brought to it.
Yeah,
And I feel like the miscarriage I had, um part of it was because of what was said to me really got to me,
yeah,
like I was so excited, and then someone I thought was so close makes these comments, and it's like it brought me down so much. And I feel like emotions and energies are going to affect that. And yeah, it's ultimately God's plan, but if if you still have free will, and things can still be in your control, right? And I think a lot of times our emotions handle things. And
yeah,
like that showed up, like we said, with morning sickness and all these other things. So don't feel like you have to tell anyone. Stop making announcements
yeah,
so early on. And actually do whatever you want. Don't listen to me. Do whatever you want. But just protect yourself because energy is real. People's intentions are not always great. And no one deserves or needs to know anything about you and your pregnancy. It's
yeah.
an intimate experience. Keep it intimate for your sanity.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that you said that because I think that there's so much around the announcing pregnancies and I think it can go either way. I think that sometimes people should be protecting themselves and, keeping it intimate if that's what they really want, like if you really want that,
Right.
then do it. You don't have to announce it at 12 weeks or whatever the rule is, quote unquote. Or if you feel the opposite, which I know there's a lot of stigma around um sharing your pregnancy before 12 weeks, like because like what if something happens or XYZ, whatever, all the fears that, um come up for that, and people keep it to themselves when really they just want to tell people because it's easier to just share it because they're so excited. So I feel like when it comes to the whole announcing your pregnancy thing, it's such a personal experience. Pregnancy, birth, all of that, it's so personal, it's so sacred. Like
Mhm.
literally do exactly what you want. Like you said, like
Yes.
there's no rules. You can go your entire pregnancy without telling a single soul, and just rolling up with a baby,
Yeah.
you know.
Right, exactly, it's really what you feel, and what I'm saying isn't to like instill fear in anyone, but this was like my experience and now like my intention with things. But if you feel good about screaming it from the rooftops the second you find out, good. Like you said, whatever works for you, whatever's personal to you. But it's definitely nothing about life is one size fits all or cookie cutter or this is the guidelines, do it like this.
For sure.
Really, whatever feels good.
Yeah,
But
for sure. So I want to take a these last like few minutes to um have you share your newest offering because I know that you are at the final, the final stretch of releasing your birth course, and I know that you touch on a lot of these things in the course, and I just want you to take a minute to kind of share what is included in this course and how people can, find it, find you, work with you, all those things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't even think to do that, but that was awesome.
Yeah, of course,
um,
girl.
so, and this is a reflection again of how this pregnancy is different than my last, and how I just continue to grow as a person. Because, quick backstory, I'll try to make it short. um, I was always like hustle culture, boss babe kind of mood. Like, I didn't feel like I was truly productive with life if I wasn't in hustle mode, like
Mm,
work, 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 work. My husband's like, just chill. Like, you're a woman, you're a mom, you're a wife. Let me take care of you. Just take care of the baby, the house, whatever. Like, don't worry about it, I love, love, love what I do. It's my passion. I will forever want to support women and help you break through any limited beliefs around pregnancy and birth. But I'm not coming from a place of like hustle culture now,
yeah,
So this course, I have been taking my time. I've not forced anything with it. Where in the past I had two courses out that I hustled, hustled, hustled to get ready, to get out there, to put out in the world, all this stuff. And it just never felt right. So I did a lot of courses for myself. Like, I see other coaches. Like, I learn from other coaches, right? Because we have to fill our cup to fill your cup. And I learned a lot about how to just take it back, step into your feminine, not force things, go with the flow. And it's kind of a reflection of this pregnancy. So I'm finally finishing it up. I started it last summer. And I just took my time because, like I said, it's just, I don't think as a woman we should be forcing things and like on the strict 9 to 5, Monday to Friday schedule. We're not made for
absolutely.
that,
Absolutely.
So it's finally finished. I will be releasing it soon. Depending on when you're listening to this episode, I do have a free masterclass happening to promote the new course coming out. The free class is called The Birth Mood. That'll be live on March 23rd at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And there will be a replay available until March 26th, which is Mercy's birthday. And I thought the perfect day to release my new course called The Aligned and Supported Birth, which just, again, kind of like ties into everything in my pregnancy and my life, with what I believe pregnancy birth prep to be like, and all that stuff. So I go over, gosh, so many different things, tons of fears that pop up, different ways to navigate pregnancy and birth, and all different things. Just like, I kind of grabbed from different women that I coached personally and what I saw to be like the common thing in many of them, and put it in this course because I feel like it kind of hits on everything. So we talk about due dates. We talk about water births. Are we putting too much pressure on these things? Are we putting too much pressure on dates and red raspberry leaf tea? Like different things like that,
Yeah.
different fears. Like, stop obsessing over the things.
Seriously.
It's full of journal prompts. It's full of risks and benefits of common hospital birth practices. It's full of affirmations and Bible verses. There's so much stuff in it. My husband put a meal plan in there. Tiffany, you ever so graciously gave me a birth trauma freebie to put in there as a bonus, which I'm so grateful for. Because whether, nothing, no birth prep is for a first time mom only. I think it's for
Oh,
all
yeah,
moms, all moms. You have to get your mind right, try different courses. So,
for sure.
um,
I
Hopefully,
love
again, this
that.
makes
I'm
sense.
so excited. I'm so excited.
So
Um,
yeah, that comes out. You can find me on Instagram at the Pure Doula, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. Like I'm everywhere, and I have links that you can sign up for the class, or if you're hearing this afterwards, I will have links set up to grab the course once it's out. But yeah, I'm
I will
really
drop all
excited.
the links in the show notes
Oh, thank you.
for
Yes,
sure.
yes. So I'm excited. And it will like it's really about being aligned with birth, you know. So it's like how do you support birth if you're not aligned with it? And how do you align with birth? Is like you have to become birth, you have to fully understand it, embody it, mentally be there. So this is more of like a mental prep. Like yes, there are other things in it that will inform you about like epidurals and C-sections and breastfeeding, but a majority of it is like videos on just the mental aspect and journal prompts to get you there.
I love it. I love it. If you are pregnant, definitely get on that. And the masterclass sounds incredible. And again, I'm gonna link everything in the show notes so that you guys can go check it out and check Kathryn out.
Yay! Yes, please do.
Thank you
And I promise I'm not
again.
always so like chaotic sounding. It's just I'm talking so fast because of my coffee and I'm
And
very
you're
pregnant,
very
so I'm losing my
pregnant,
breath.
girl. Don't
Yeah.
worry. Don't worry. And when there's so much to share, it's hard not to like, be like
Yeah.
that. I feel like
I
I'm always like
know.
that when I record podcasts with people, like with another guest, because I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so much to say. Like, I gotta say it all. I can't
Yeah,
forget.
exactly. Like I'm so excited. Okay, but I have to say this and I want to say this and but
No,
I
but
hope
this
the
was
point came
great.
across pretty clear.
It
So
was very clear, and I'm so happy
okay.
for you and your family, your growing family,
Oh,
and
thank
yeah, thank
you.
you for coming on and sharing your experience and all of the great advice, and I am so excited for your course to come out. Can't wait to go check it out.
Yes,
Thank you
I'm
again,
definitely going to send
Catherine.
you everything so you can just have it um and see what you enjoy and all that because I love other birth workers feedback for sure. But
Oh, I would love
I'm
that.
Yes, and I'm excited that you did include a freebie for me to put in there for some women who would benefit from birth trauma because that stuff's so real and what you're doing is
Yeah,
so needed and it's
thank
such a big
you.
deal. I see trauma, birth trauma all over the internet, just in comments alone that women leave on like
Oh yeah,
birth
no,
videos. It's
for
so
sure.
crazy.
For
But not to go
sure.
off on another tangent.
And that freebie is exclusive to Catherine's course, so that will never be available anyplace else. So if you
Oh,
want it, you
I don't think
gotta.
I knew that. Wow, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, girl, it is
That's so
just for
cool.
your course. So yeah, I hope that you ladies enjoy it who, ends up getting the course and checking it out. Um, all of this stuff is so important. And this is like not birth prep. Like I feel like this type of birth prep is like for life, like it just
Yeah.
changes you forever. You're never the same after you do this work. You're never the same after you overcome your birth trauma. You're never the same after you shift your perspective of birth and pregnancy and realize that, we are humans and we are multifaceted and there's so much more to us. We're not robots. And yeah, so it's life-changing stuff. So
I agree.
anyways, girly, thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go because I could talk forever with you.
I
All
know. We say this every time.
right.
You can just talk and talk and talk.
All right, girl. Enjoy your Saturday.
Thank you. You too.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.